time is approximately forever.
We cannot afford to be so politically correct anymore. Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo.
Please continue to hold for the next available representative.
Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo.
We appreciate you waiting and waiting. What is it you're waiting for? Do you even know anymore?
These are people who work hard but no longer have a voice. I am your voice.
Disconnected.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new live stream, our usual typical Sunday stream, and we've got a decent amount to talk about. Not a lot in terms of the topics. We're probably going to be shorter, but in terms of the people, I'm sure we're going to get to a lot of super chats as well throughout the stream. So feel free to leave them. The link is in the chat box, the $sign. But anyways, I'm here. We're back. We're ready to go. We have new polling data today out of Arizona. Out of Florida, it's looking really good for Trump. In Georgia, it's looking good for him. In Nevada, we have quite a bit to get to, and that we know. So like and subscribe down below. Make sure you guys do that. And we just hit 180,000, which is a pretty cool milestone. So we're going to keep going until we get to, hopefully over 200,000 sometime before the election. I think we're going to get a lot more than that come October as we get closer. But still, Democrats, they're coping. They're coping because they know there really isn't a lot of metrics that look good for them. And, every side who's not the favorite in the polls will point to other metrics. And I'm not saying the other metrics don't matter, because they absolutely do to a certain extent. But usually they try to say, well, all the metrics are wrong and here's why. Now, in 2016 and to a lesser extent in 2020, Republicans were 100% right that the polls were underestimating Donald Trump and missing certain demographics that Donald Trump has a unique point of strength with, and we saw that. He won a ridiculously high share of the white working class population, not one, but twice, and that we know. And when it comes down to this election, Democrats are saying, well, the polls or the crosstabs are weird. It's like they've always been weird. They've always been weird. That's not an excuse. I mean, they underestimated Trump with seniors and white voters in 2020, as I said they would, and they overestimated him with minorities, which I said they would, but still Trump is gaining in every single poll a ridiculous vote share in terms of improving his vote totals among Hispanics and to a lesser extent, black voters, which is a little iffy. I don't think he's going to get 25 or 30%, but I think it shows that Biden doesn't really have as high of a support level in some of these communities that he initially had in 2020. That's why he's giving the commencement speech at a HBCU, just lie-filled, divisive nonsense. But apparently a Christian NFL player giving a commencement speech at a Christian school saying Christian things is out of bounds, apparently, but the president trying to campaign with a commencement speech trying to divide the entire country. No, that's perfectly fine. Stunning and brave, that we know. But still, it's not going to move the needle. He's desperate. People have made up their mind. Most people in this country. And right now you're seeing some of the polling data out of Arizona, which we're going to get to, and we're going to talk about the spread between Donald Trump and Kari Lake, because it's an 18-point spread in terms of the margin. I don't believe that's going to hold at all. It's not going to be 18, even if it is there, which I think it would be there. I think it'd be like 5-ish, at least as of now. Maybe that could change. Maybe it could go down. I don't think it's going to go up, because you talk about a maximum spread. It's not like you're going to have a lot of ticket splitting. If Trump is winning the state of Arizona, a good chunk, 10% of his voters, or in this case, it'd be 20% of his voters are not voting for Ruben Gallego, because that's essentially what it would imply if there's like a 20% split, just like in, Montana. Tim Sheehy's not going to lose Montana. If this was like a special election, anything could happen. You're right, but it's not a special election. It's on the same ticket as the presidential race, and that's kind of what we're looking at here. So, but besides the point of the polls, which do look really good for Donald Trump, I see this. Oh, well, Trump has less donors than 2020, and Biden has more donors than 2020, which this is not really a good metric to go off of, because Biden was the sitting president now. And back in 2020, he wasn't winning like a third of his support in the primary of all the Democrat candidates until, March or April, I should say. But, even by May, he was only the nominee for about a month. And this is a little bit different because Biden had 0 people that were opposing him. And if you look at the map, it shows that the places where he has fewer donors are places that he did extraordinarily well in the primary or had a lot of primary support with. And the places that he's doing a lot better in terms of donors are the places that Bernie Sanders did well in and some other candidates did very well in terms of the overall donor share. So it doesn't really tell us a lot now about that being the case. And as for Trump doesn't really have, a lot of places in the country where he's just hemorrhaging donors. He had 1.1 million at this time around when he was the sitting president, but now it's a bad thing because he has, a little bit less than that. And Donald Trump only has 15,000 less donors than Joe Biden. You know what the final total was in 2020? It was 2.4 million donors. Trump had like 2.5 million total, and then Biden had somewhere around like 4.9, or maybe Trump's was 2.7, but it was nearly double the amount of donors. So again, the donor metric doesn't hold up. This is what they're trying to cling to now. It really doesn't. And if you look at Biden's, weak points, it's mainly in places like Georgia, the Atlanta area, and it's in, up in the Delaware area, but also eastern Pennsylvania. That's not good news for him. It's really not. It shows where he's lost support. It shows where he's hemorrhaging support, even though his, baseline share should be much higher. But he's not even hitting that in places that he extraordinarily has done well in. That's not usually a good sign. Meanwhile, Trump, is he really gaining a lot of donors over last time? No, but I wouldn't really anticipate him to. So the fact that he's running just about even doesn't really tell us much at the end of the day. And then we have one of the best midterms in the modern history for the party in the White House, and talking about special elections. Both of these are lower propensity elections, which again, you're going to have higher turnout in a presidential election than you would in a special election, which is 10% turnout and is extraordinarily driven by abortion in like 80% of cases. And then there's all these other special elections where Republicans are overperforming, but no, those don't count. Those don't matter. So which one exactly is it? Because there's not many overperformances. In fact, this tweet is right because it talks about overperformances left and right. I could point to 20 elections where Republicans overperformed Trump, but apparently those don't count for some reason because they're like supposed to happen or whatever. But even then, we could point to election overperformances of Republicans in some cases back in 2017, 2018. It doesn't exactly add up is what I'm talking about. It's too, driven by the lower propensity voters. And in terms of both sides, it's like, it's not quite there. So the midterms argument, again, it was not one of the best midterms in modern history for the party in the White House. They lost the generic ballot by 3%, and they lost 10 House seats. They only gained 1 Senate seat. In terms of the governorships, they picked up some deep blue state governorships that Republicans were retiring in, and then they traded Arizona for Nevada. That's basically what happened. And I thought this was the whole candidate quality crowd as well that would be talking about something like this taking place. But apparently no, they'll try to blame Donald Trump for somebody like Herschel Walker, who couldn't complete a sentence to save his life losing in Georgia, despite the fact that all the other MAGA candidates down ballot, people like the AG commissioner, people like the lieutenant governor, they all won by 5 points or more. So clearly that's not enough to really gauge it either. And in terms of Haley pulling 20% in closed primaries, she pulled 20% in Maryland. Maryland, she didn't even get to 20% in Maryland. But Maryland is not a GOP that is very pro-Trump. Larry Hogan got 60-some% of the vote on the same ballot. Now, a lot of that is because you obviously have people who are, I guess you would say Donald Trump supporters, but realize that Hogan's the only one that can win that Senate race. I'm not saying that it's only because all the people are Hoganites or whatever, but this is a deep blue state, doesn't really tell us much. And turnout was so low. But in terms of Nebraska, if you add up the Trump vote with the Haley vote, and then you add the Biden vote up, and you actually give Biden all the Haley voters, and you give Trump the Dean Phillips voters, it shows that Donald Trump would win Nebraska in terms of the electorate that showed up by like 21, 22%. And there's no point in trying in primaries anymore. Trump is still setting records. So it doesn't tell us very much either way. So the polls are the best metric to use out of any of these other metrics who don't really, in retrospect, compare them with 2020. It doesn't look good for Biden. Biden barely getting above 70% in West Virginia. Nobody's going to talk about that moving the needle. Of course not. And I don't think it really means much for the election as a whole, other than the fact that West Virginia is moving to the right, which it is. But it doesn't really tell us that Donald Trump is in dire straits in Wisconsin or Michigan and Pennsylvania, because in all those 3 states, Joe Biden failed to crack, I think, 88% of the vote in pretty much all of them. I think Pennsylvania, which is a closed primary, he couldn't even crack 88% there. Trump only got 83%. That's true. But at the end of the day, what was the reason for people to turn out? Anyways, the one place in Pennsylvania that had a contested down-ballot primary was a place that moved left in 2020, but Donald Trump still got, 88, 89% of the primary vote in that district. So every single metric they point to is not exactly indicative. The polls are the best metric we have. It doesn't mean that they're, bound to be accurate, but are they underestimating Joe Biden by 5 points in Arizona, by 5 points in Georgia, by 7 points in Nevada? Probably not. The election's going to be won in the Rust Belt. Trump needs to win probably one of those 3 states. We know that that's how it's going to be won. But it's not enough to sit back here and say that, look at these other metrics. Biden's the favorite. He's not the favorite. There's no metric he's the favorite in. That's not to say he can't win, but just looking at the generic metrics, there is not a single metric you can point to that is uniquely good for Joe Biden. Not one. Not primary data, because if you want to go back to Super Tuesday, when Haley was still in the race and look at it, and Trump was actually trying, he was demolishing her. Even in these suburban counties, she was not getting the margins you would have thought that she would get. That's kind of the issue. That's kind of the issue. And yeah, the 13 keys, somebody said the keys. The keys don't matter. And I'll tell you why, because they're very subjective. And the public perception does not match up with the keys. If the economy was strong, people would be saying the economy is strong, but because of some metrics that are inflated in part due to COVID, the keys show that the economic metrics are actually very good and that they're going to help Biden win, and that Biden has no scandals and that Biden has no foreign or military failures and all these other things. It doesn't matter. Lichtman, I think at this point, is either A, senile, or B, he's hedging his bets that Biden's going to get his base out and is going to try to just use and twist his poor model into being accurate. Maybe he thinks Biden's going to win because of turnout. That would be the only explanation for it. Doesn't exactly add up. He's been wrong about a lot of things. He said Trump would win the popular vote in 2016. It never happened. He said that, 2000, he said that Gore was going to win. Gore didn't win. What does it prove? It proves that these keys are very subjective. It also shows that Trump would be better off running in 2028 than he would be in 2024, which to the average person sounds like a crazy thing to say, because it would be. Why would he run then when he possibly could face a stronger Democrat challenger instead of running against a president with an approval rating above 40% on a good day? It's not exactly something that's a good look. Joe Biden is very unpopular. Democrats are sticking with him. And what exactly happened? Well, you're seeing what's going on right now. You're seeing what's going on. Did I say West Virginia's trending? I did not say West Virginia's trending left. If I did say that, I meant it's trending to the right, for the record. It's moving to the right. So maybe I misspoke or you misheard, but that's the way it goes. But there's no metric that looks good. I'm still waiting for the metric, the one metric, because the donors are tied. Now, down the stretch, if Biden is outdoing Trump in terms of total donors by 3 million donors, then maybe that is something to be concerned about. Maybe it is. But as of right now, it doesn't tell us much. Trump just got done with the primary. Biden had no primary, but still he's bleeding support to these people who are irrelevant. That's what he's doing. So what does it exactly tell you, other than the fact that Biden is getting a lot of the money from these people that are going to support him? He should probably end up with more donors than Trump. Hillary in 2016 even had more donors than Trump, at least the last data point that they showed in September. Even though Trump did close the gap, I think it was much more narrow than 2020. But the fact that Biden has a lead in total donors by just 15,000 does not tell us a lot. If anything, it shows that it's much narrower than it was, and I think down the stretch we're going to find out. And what really raised a lot of money for Biden last time around was the whole George Floyd thing. You had the riots, whatever, certain COVID things that definitely impacted the increase in donors. If you actually read the article about donors in 2020 and why Biden was able to get a leg up on Trump, but it's not quite enough. We'll see what happens, but I think that after the trial, regardless of what happens, Trump is probably going to leapfrog Biden overnight in terms of raw donors, so we'll have to see on that front as well. So let's see. We have to talk about the trial because it's just getting out of hand. It's getting out of hand. I mean, they're trying to get Trump through the legal system, and it's just not working. And we know that the jury's biased. We know that New York is New York. We know the judge is biased, put a gag order on Trump so we can't criticize him. But Donald Trump is still having his surrogates go to the trial and criticize the judge. So what does it exactly say? What does it exactly tell us? It tells us that there's a chance, you would say, a very high chance that Donald Trump would end up being convicted here. But when you look into the case, it's all falling apart. Every day there's something new that happens that just falls apart, whether it's Michael Cohen lying or Michael Cohen getting caught in lies or them actually bringing up the facts and evidence. Trump actually has good lawyers. What happened? Donald Trump, he was notorious for having lawyers that were not exactly all that solid around him, but now he finally found some good lawyers. I mean, you're seeing it here. It's funny because the old lawyer is the one on the stand that's lying his ass off. So you're seeing that, but Trump finding good lawyers, it's working out for him very well. And the defense is actually, they don't have to do much because there's no crime. What crime are they exactly trying to convict Trump on? We have no idea what the crime is. We have no proof that there were any business records or campaign records that were falsified that we can see. This is all a spectacle. And if anything, it's helping Trump. I can't see an acquittal hurt Trump. I can't see a conviction hurt Trump at this point quite either. So this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to hedge their bets on a conviction of Trump, so they can try to say he's a criminal. And if they do that, maybe Biden's not going to debate him, because Biden will say, wait a minute, he got convicted. But still, I think it's going to end in a hung jury. And maybe I'm being too optimistic about this, but it'll take one person out of 12 just to say, no, I'm not going to vote to convict. I'm not going to convict. We know the jurors are biased, but the case is so bad that you would think at least one person happened to slip through the cracks and would just decide to do the right thing, right? I mean, that's a common sense way to look at this. Now, if he is convicted, does he even get jail time? I don't think they're stupid enough to do that. But even then, you could say it helps him. There's really no way around this to say that this trial is going to end in a way that Donald Trump is not exactly going to walk away from in a positive light. You won't, in terms of his electoral prospects. Because if you look at the other trials, the Georgia one is completely in tatters. Fani Willis is now the one under investigation, and that trial is not going to happen until 2025 at the earliest. 2025 would be like the first time, not even early 2025. Same thing with the Florida case, which probably even you could say gets thrown out by the judge because the judge is actually a fair judge and realizes that it would be selective prosecution for something that there's a lot of different details on. So there's that. The only other case would be the D.C. case, which the Supreme Court very well could gut that case as well with the immunity hearings, and who knows when they're going to finally agree to rule on that. And after that, the trial can't even start for at least 3 months after that, and it probably would end up getting delayed past the election, even if it starts taking place in like November or December. So either way, we'll see what happens on that front. But nonetheless, the trials are all collapsing because they were all fake. And one acquittal in one of these trials, or even a hung jury, if Trump walks away from this case unscathed, it's going to make the other cases look weaker, especially if his numbers continue to rise. Maybe they'll try to push the D.C. case up front. We'll see what happens on that front. I don't even know if they can do it because there's so many procedural loopholes that Donald Trump can take advantage of to delay these things further and further and further. We were told he would be in jail by now, but it seems like that's not exactly the case. He's walking free, it seems. You know, it's not a sure thing, but we talk about the conviction. Is it off the table? Maybe not, but it's a lot less on the table than it was probably, a few weeks ago even, and that's a very good sign for Trump. He's unleashed. He basically is in jail right now. He can't campaign. That's why he's going to the Bronx on Thursday. That he only really has Wednesday off, the weekends off, you name it, that's what he's doing. So we'll really have to see. But nonetheless, we also have to talk about this poll that came out. It shows Donald Trump up in Arizona by 5 points, but it also shows Kari Lake losing to Ruben Gallego by 13 points. So is there really an 18-point split? Let's analyze this. One, probably not. And this is true. Some Republicans don't like Lake, but they very well will likely come home if they're already voting for Trump. That's one thing to note about this poll. Number two, Gallego is below 50%. He's only outrunning Biden by 2 points. So if you allocate the undecideds in the Senate race, it would definitely narrow significantly, even if Gallego would still be in the lead. But you're looking at the amount of undecideds here. That is about 15% that's undecided in the Senate race, but you only have 1% that's undecided in the presidential race. So that kind of tells you that a lot of the undecideds could break either way. And obviously, I think that Kari Lake would make up a lot of that ground based off of that in and of itself. But does that mean that Lake is going to run in line with Trump? Does it mean she's the favorite? Probably not, but a lot can change. I mean, there's a long way to go before the election. We have like 5 months, 6 months to go. So a lot could possibly happen. But if Donald Trump is winning Arizona by 5, you would probably anticipate that Lake is not going to run far behind him, especially because Gallego is pretty weak himself. Even if he has a lot of money, he's trying to reinvent himself. But still, the Gallego family, they are very, very much a far-left family. They have been in Arizona politics for a while. They're polarizing as well. They're well-known. So I don't know. As for the Trump-Gallego voter, I don't think there's going to be that many of them. They probably do exist, possibly some Hispanics. I don't really think the whole McCain thing is really what's driving that, because I think a lot of those voters are really just going to vote for Biden anyways, or they might vote for RFK Jr. or some of these other candidates as well that are in the running. So when you look at that, Trump up by 5, that's the main takeaway. The main takeaway should be this. Donald Trump is up by 5 points in Arizona. 5 points. He's up by 5. This is a state that he never won by 5. He never won by 5 in 2016. He didn't even win it by 4. He won it by 3.5. He now leads by 5. And you want to look at these swing states in the South. Nevada, Trump by 6. Georgia, Trump by 5 if you round up. But still, that would be lean on the map. Arizona, Trump by 5.2. Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, those are the states that are kind of, in limbo. There's question marks about, but still, they don't even have, I believe, North Carolina as a swing state anymore, because he's up by 5 in North Carolina too. What does that exactly do? That puts Donald Trump's floor at 268 electoral votes. That's where he's starting. He needs 1 to win. That is a big task. I know it's a big task, but you need 1 electoral vote to win the presidential election. Just 1. Biden has to defend a lot of these states. He is probably not going to contest Arizona much. He's probably not going to contest Nevada. I think he would be dumb to, because Nevada doesn't really give Trump or Biden a lot of paths to victory. I don't think Trump is going to spend a ridiculous amount of time in Nevada in and of itself. But Arizona, Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, the Biden campaign probably, you could say, would ignore a lot of those states, or at least reduce them in priority, because the number 1 state that's going to make the difference is Wisconsin. Pennsylvania, you could say, you could make a case for. But even Pennsylvania, Donald Trump leads the polls in Pennsylvania by 2 points. That's a lean margin. That's pretty good. And polls in the Rust Belt do underestimate Donald Trump. And maybe they're not this time. I don't think you can take that for granted. But Pennsylvania, that's a state Trump can win. He's polling at 47.6% already. It's going to be close. It's going to go down the wire. That whole New Jersey rally benefited him in the Philadelphia area. That's where the election very well could be won. Wisconsin, I think, as well. There's a lot of room to grow in Wisconsin for Republicans. Michigan, it's another state where maybe it's not competitive every cycle. This is not your usual election cycle. It is going to be competitive. Donald Trump can win it. He needs to make a play for it. Minnesota's now on the table. Polls in Virginia are close. I mean, this is a very, very strange election cycle. Biden is opening up field offices now in Virginia. Would he be doing that if it wasn't supposed to be that close? I don't think so. Did he have any in Virginia last time? Maybe in the primary, but general election? I don't know. We'll see. But Donald Trump is up in Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia, in the 5-way race at least, by a likely margin that's 5 points or more. He does not have to worry about those states according to the polls. He should still worry about them. He still needs to fight for them. He still needs to go to them. He still needs to campaign in them, spend money in them. Absolutely. That goes without saying. But it would make sense that he's on the up and up. Arizona's Republican registrations are increasing significantly over the past 4 years and even over the past 2 years. It's true that Hispanic voters are heavy in population in all 3 of these states, and they've moved right to a certain extent. It depends. Can Trump stop a little bit of the bleeding with the white suburbanite, even if some of that is just people dropping off from Biden, people going third party from Biden? If he's able to do that, he will be able to go out there and win the election. And that's kind of what it comes down to. It's still a dogfight. It's still a close race because, winning the Electoral College, you have to do that. You don't know what the polls are doing. Yes, they've underestimated Trump. Could they be doing the opposite this time? I'm not saying it's impossible. I think it's unlikely, but it's not impossible. And we know that this comes down to voter enthusiasm? Is the average Trump voter paying attention compared to how much they were paying attention back in 2016, back in 2020? That's a very big question mark. They clearly weren't in the midterms, but it's a different vibe. It's a presidential year, so we'll have to see. But it's clear that Biden thinks he's up. Well, that's delusion. We know that's delusion, but we can't really take it for granted. We need people voting and bringing other people to vote with them this time. We can't take this for granted. I mean, anything can happen this election cycle. It's not dooming. It's just reality. So be careful. Get people out. Make sure people vote. Make sure your family votes and make sure they vote for Trump. That's what you got to do. So we'll have to see. But we have a lot of super chats to get to as well. We got 1,000 live viewers. Make sure you guys like the stream down below. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you are new to the channel, and we will get to the super chats. So Johnny Heartdog says, do you think there might be some sleeper flip states from Biden to Trump? I think Minnesota would qualify. I'm not ready to say Virginia. I'm not ready to say New Mexico, but I think they could be closer than people expect at the end of the day. Also, are there sleeper flips from Trump to Biden? No, there's not. North Carolina's not going to flip. I mean, if there is one, it'd be Alaska, but Biden, just like all presidents when they're incumbents, he's not well liked in Alaska. I mean, RFK Jr. might get like 15% of the vote there because it's a weird state. They like third parties, but I think that hurts Biden more than it hurts Trump. Also, one more thing, it's really small, but notice that I go out of my way not to start Biden, Pelosi, Alvin, or any of those pieces of garbage with a capital letter. They don't deserve common respect. Also, I think Trump's baseline floor is 257. If you factor in Georgia and Nevada, that's his floor, 257. I agree, it's somewhere around there. I mean, is there a little bit of PTSD where you don't want to push Arizona into the column? Maybe, but it's close. It's on the chopping block. We could gauge what the real floor is going to be. I think 257 is fair. 268 is definitely fair. You know, I don't want to put it above 270, even if it is above 270, because I feel like that's pushing complacency. We don't want to push complacency because that's detrimental. David Zintara says 80-20 is still a pretty good split, demonstrating that it's Trump's party. Yeah, I mean, what else do you want the margins to be in some of these states? I don't know. What would the margin have to be for Donald Trump to actually be in a good position in the eyes of these people? Because if it's Haley's getting 10%, that's still a problem. If she was getting 5%, they would still talk about it. It doesn't matter. Not everybody that's voting in a Republican primary anyways votes for Donald Trump or voted for Trump in 2020 or 2016. I mean, registered party does not necessarily indicate that a person identifies as a Republican. It doesn't. You have a lot of people that are legacy Republicans, or honestly, on the flip side, legacy Democrats. That's why in a closed primary or semi-closed like Oklahoma, Biden's losing counties to Dean Phillips and whatnot. It's mainly because of the fact that they can't vote another way when they do go to vote. And people aren't really trying. When people aren't trying, who does that benefit? Higher propensity voters, people that vote by mail. Who does that benefit? Well, people that usually vote for Biden. So that would explain why, Donald Trump is not getting 90% in some of these primaries. Like right after Haley dropped out, but Trump was still trying in a place like Georgia, he was getting in the 80s. And in Mississippi, I think he got like 92%. So that would explain it. And when there's down ballot races, you also have more independents that vote in these things. And you have more, like in Indiana, people crossing over from the Democrat side to vote down ballot for Republican gubernatorial candidates because they know they can't beat them in the general. And there were no contested primaries on the Democrat side. So that would kind of explain why you saw a lot of crossover support for some of these other people in Indiana. That's why Trump, despite Indiana being a very pro-Trump state, was getting about, I think, 79% of the vote in the primary, despite Haley dropping out a couple months before. So let's see. Bomani Igloo says, opinion on the SSA auto voter registration. The Social Security. Again, that stuff isn't real. I'm sick and tired of people pushing this narrative that Texas is 1 million new people that registered to vote last week. It's not real. It's not in the data. The Republican Secretary of State showed the actual data. It's not real. I don't know where it's coming from, but it's not real. There's legitimate concerns. This is not one of them. And I'm not saying that it's this individual specifically that I'm upset at about it. There's just a lot of people that spread this stuff because they know it sells. They know it sells to people because people are looking for a reason to be concerned. That's what it comes down to. And I'm upset that you have these people and these networks that do this. It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't exactly solve the problem. You're complaining about something that doesn't exist, and what does it do? It demoralizes people, and it needs to stop now. And I'm honestly sick of it because you're not actually helping. You're not helping register voters. You're not helping people turn out. You're demoralizing them with things that aren't even true because one reason or another. Now, if this was a concern, it'd be a concern in Texas. It would have been a concern in Texas about, 2 years ago when you already have the border crisis going on, and the results showed the same thing from that website, and Republicans won by 11. So, I'm not worried about that. And also, where are the registrations in Arizona in high numbers? If that's the thing, wouldn't they be putting more stock into doing it in Arizona? But there were no numbers for Arizona, so it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't make sense whatsoever. You have people that are going out there and saying these things, and it doesn't necessarily make them true. Logan AG says, I just want to hear you say "ma democracy." Well, there you go. And that's another thing. Biden talking about democracy at the HBCU. Does he realize that message doesn't really resonate with those groups of people? Like young voters. They don't want to hear it. They don't know what it means. They don't care. They don't see this as a virtue. Hispanic voters, they don't. A lot of these people come from places where there is no democracy, and a lot of them are content with it. I mean, that's just the way it is. And then you look at black voters as well. Does that message really resonate? Oh, Trump is the threat to democracy. No, of course not. It doesn't resonate with anybody except white liberals, neocons, ideological neocons. And if Biden loses, I think a lot of that, obviously he's been a horrible president, but in terms of his campaign messaging, a lot of it just isn't quite there. Same thing with abortion, but at least abortion appeals to a demographic. Yes, it's not going to move the needle for him because Donald Trump is taking the hands-off approach. But still, in terms of Biden on the issue of abortion, what's he exactly, doing? When people talk about abortion, does that energize black voters? It didn't in Georgia in 2022 or North Carolina for that matter. Does it energize Hispanics? Well, Texas had abortion banned, and Greg Abbott did very well among Hispanic voters. So apparently it doesn't really resonate with these people. It mainly resonates with white liberals, some independents, but I don't think it's going to move the needle very much because what people voted for Trump and are now saying, well, Trump's going to ban abortion nationwide, and they're not going to vote for him because he's not saying he's going to ban abortion nationwide. Not at a 15-week ban, not at a 12-week ban, no national ban. It's a state issue, and Biden's not going to codify it for that matter. Anyways, he's not going to have the votes to do it unless they get rid of the filibuster and keep the Senate, which they're not going to do either one of those things. And even then, getting rid of the filibuster is not something that a lot of people support anyways, so it doesn't exactly make sense. Let's see. We have more super chats here. Luke Newman says, when are you going to do a house map prediction? Well, maybe early next month. I don't know. Not a lot's changed. Chief Constituent says, thoughts on the Arizona Senate race. Who is the best choice? Well, I don't think that Mark Lamb is running a campaign. I hear a lot of people saying, Mark Lamb is going to be the better candidate and he'll win. But he's not even trying, and he's still in the race. So why exactly would he be a better candidate? Now, if he was actually trying, you could make the case. But in his current form, he's not a strong candidate. So obviously Lake's the only option. There's some other no-name. They're not anyone of note. They're not going anywhere. Let's see. Willis says, with Trump crushing it with Nevada and Arizona Hispanics, it'll be very interesting to see some good polls come out of New Mexico. Well, we'll see. But again, New Mexico is a state that has a lot of white liberals too. So it's not like, 10% gain with Hispanics is going to be enough to move the state in his column. Carter W. says, will Lichtman say Trump will win like 2016? No, I mean, I doubt it. Punch a Bunch Bear says, Harry Sisson wears short shorts. Hitman Zarelli for 15 says, VP Vivek, Byron Donalds or Tulsi, me for number 3. There are others that I have in mind, but they're kind of rhinos. Biden number 4 as a effort option to make them bamboozled. It's not going to be Vivek. Again, I keep telling people this. It's not going to be Vivek. He's not going to pick Vivek because Vivek is too similar to him. They're going to butt heads, and he doesn't help him electorally. He doesn't add anything to the ticket. I mean, you make the ticket very unusual looking when you have a Trump Ramaswamy ticket. It doesn't exactly look that good on a bumper sticker. But a lot of people want Vivek, but it's not going to be Vivek. There's no way it'll be Vivek. I mean, he's not even that close to the inner circle at this point. He's some sort of a surrogate, but he's not, anywhere above like an advisor role, I will say. Timbo Slice says, hey, Rep, I've been wondering if you do a doomsday prediction, make a map using the polling error in favor of Biden just to show how we can never be complacent in this election. Go vote, people. Well, it's funny because even if you apply the 2022 polling error, Donald Trump still wins in the state of Georgia. I think it was, he wins Georgia. He wins Arizona. He still wins Texas, Florida. He wins every state except the Rust Belt 3 that I already have in the prediction. So it's not to say take those polls for granted. It's just to say that, I understand what you mean, that we need to get out and vote or the polls don't matter, because it's true. The polls poll people that are supposed to vote. But if they don't vote, then it could be wrong. So, SoCal Conservative for 20 says, hey, Rep, wildly enough, it turns out that my cousin is actually your roommate. Here's something to help keep the lights on. Keep up the great content, man. Well, thank you for the super chat. Interesting. I did not know that, but thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. But in terms of the debate, because everyone's talking about the debate between Trump and Biden. Again, why is Biden having it this early if he doesn't need something to give him a boost? Why would he debate this early? There's no reason for him to. It would not make any sense to say, okay, well, I'm winning. Let me gamble with my momentum on something that I'm just not really all that good at. Do I think the debates are going to move the needle ridiculously? Probably not. I mean, I think Trump probably can beat Biden pretty easily in the first debate. But still, again, we know how the media will spin it regardless. So I think Trump in the debate, little interesting in terms of the strategy of Biden to have it this early. But I don't know if we can sit here and say, well, it's going to change everything or Trump will destroy Biden even, because we know the media wants to set low expectations. But Trump coming out and saying Biden needs to take a drug test, that kind of showcases the expectations are being lowered because, or are actually being raised, because if Biden comes out, he's coherent, but he's also on drugs like he is in some of these videos where his eyes, his pupils are dilating at a ridiculous, size. It kind of showcases that he is on something. We don't know what it is. Some people say Adderall. Some people say it's something else. But he is definitely on something. And they're giving him something that's able to keep him awake and afloat for about, 45 minutes. It's not going to help in the back end of the debate. Unless he has it in his water and he drinks his water during the debate. Who knows? Who knows what they'll try? But we can't set expectations too low. So, like I said, it's likely debates really have the biggest impact if you have a gotcha moment, if you have a moment where you severely go out there and pummel your opponent on something, or at least the vibe of the debate is that you... it's just not a hard debate to watch. I think that the first debate in 2020 was very hard to watch. I think it made a lot of people disillusioned, period, in terms of the undecideds. But if Trump did the second debate strategy, it's possible that he would have picked up more voters from it, because you got to let Biden talk so he trips over himself, which he does, whether he's drugged up or not. I don't know where this whole, he gave a great State of the Union performance came from. Guys going out there and incoherently rambling about Snickers bars. It's and going on every time he would go off script, because that's another thing. He'd be going off script at the debates because there is no script. But at the State of the Union, he just had to read off the script, and that's kind of what dictated the fact that he was able to not have as many gaffes. But he was able to stay awake for it, so I guess that means he gave a great speech according to the media, according to these people. Doesn't really add up. Let's see, President Biden says they'll probably start World War III before the election. I don't know. But when you look at the Iran stuff, is crazy. The president dies in a helicopter crash. Of course, a lot of people are asking questions. Was it deliberate? Was it not? I don't know the answer, but it is true that if it was some sort of intentional thing, hypothetically, possible that you could see more tension overseas. And I don't think that starting World War III necessarily would make Biden look good or would cause a rally around the flag effect. When your weak leadership is causing these conflicts, people are going to want you out of the picture. That's kind of the main takeaway here. M says, how would the map look if Trump got 100 million votes? Very red. Very red, but I don't think it's likely that he does. I think that he probably gets around, I think him and Biden both get in the low 70s. It's probably going to be about an even popular vote split. Trump wins in the Electoral College. It'd be nice if Trump won the popular vote, but I think it's going to be close. Magna Defender 98 says, I find it hilarious how the MSM keeps trying to resurrect the COOF. It was DOA during 22, but the journos have no other tricks for Biden. Well, I've never really seen him talk about it. I feel like it's getting talked about less and less unless I'm missing something. LinnerX52 for 20 says, Rubio rocked an NBC segment with extremely aggressive and hostile host. I remember you saying he would be okay as the VP. After watching that, I have to say I feel different about him. Feels like he's come a long way. Well, I tend to agree. Marco Rubio is somebody who kind of blows the way the wind does. And in a way, you could say that's not a good thing, but in a way, you could also say it is if Donald Trump is the leader of the party, because Donald Trump controls the wins. Therefore, Rubio tends to be loyal to the wins. And if he's loyal to the wins, he's going to be loyal to Trump. And as a result, it's very possible that him as VP would be a solid option, not just for electoral reasons, but also in the role, because I don't think he would be as subversive as some of these other people could be. And there's a lot of devils you don't know that people are talking about too. People like Doug Burgum, if he was selected, how would that shake out? Maybe not as good as some people make it out to be. They're like, oh, he's the inoffensive pick. And that might be true. I'm not saying he's going to hurt Trump's electoral viability. But in terms of you look at his past, and it's like, well, he's friends with Bill Gates, and he's friends with all these tech moguls and the tracking apps that he's promoted during COVID and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, I'm not entirely sure that I trust any of these people fully, but I need the person that's not going to stab Trump in the back and also help him get elected. Those are the only two criteria that Donald Trump really should be looking for in terms of his VP pick. The only two. Somebody who's not going to actively subvert his agenda, and somebody who is going to go out there and help him get elected, because that's the only thing that really matters at this point. You need to add people to your column. People have to talk about the 20% of Republicans. I mean, some of those people probably did vote for Trump twice, but, if they want to get back on board, I think any VP pick can kind of help them get back on board. But I guess the role of the VP would be to unite the party as well. And somebody like any of these names mentioned could help do that to a certain extent. But we don't want people to, be voting for a ticket that has like too weak, or somebody that would turn off like actual independents who could vote for Trump. So that's kind of the other factor at play that needs to be weighed. I don't think Tim Scott would really add much to the ticket. I don't think that somebody like, I don't know, there's a lot of other names that get thrown around. Kristi Noem, obviously, she's off the table, but I don't think she ever really added much to the ticket either. Let's see. Johnny Heartdog for 5 says there are rumors that the reason why the debate is so early is because it's a trial run to see how Biden does, if they're going to replace him or not. I've heard that theory, but I think they're going to roll with him either way. I think the main takeaway about this is actually the fact that they're having him early because they know that it's not going to have an impact if he doesn't do well, and there's only one other debate. and it's like still somewhat early in the cycle. Like, it is true, it's closer to early voting. That's like the time you'd want the first debate, or at least like the second debate. But Biden's not agreeing to any more debates in like October or late September. So he's kind of being the coward here, and he's taking the easy way out. Oh, I'll debate Trump early. I'll try to save my campaign. If it doesn't work, it's probably not going to change very much, because the polls are still going to be in the other direction. But we know how these things work. If Biden and Trump go out there, Biden fails, his supporters are still going to say he destroyed Trump, and vice versa, to be fair. But it just shows polarization is key. What really comes down to the debates is, are you winning over the undecideds? How does that work? And if Trump does, but it is true though, if Trump gets some of the undecideds early on, there is a chance that it could really doom Biden. It could really hurt him come November, because if they decide after the first debate, and they're going to be less likely to waffle. So maybe you could make the argument that it would be a dagger if Biden doesn't do well. It's like a Hail Mary for Biden, just to get back in the race, back in the first place in some of these states. Hitman Zarelli for 15 says, don't care, fine, let's change the number 1 to Biden. I really want them to get bamboozled by that Trump and Biden ticket. Well, they're not. Why would they make Biden the ticket? That doesn't make any sense. You want Trump to give the nomination to his opponent. It's not, that doesn't how it works. It would never happen. It's like a troll super chat or something. Johnny Heartdog says, I'm not saying I agree because I don't. I'm saying those are rumors. No, I know they're rumors. I just don't know if I believe they're going to replace him. I've said it from day one. They were going to replace him. It would have had to be with Harris, and it would have had to be a while ago. They're running out of time. And Harris is not popular either. So they know that Biden still gives them the best choice. And I don't understand where people are pulling, Michelle Obama from, as if they think that she's going to somehow come in and she's going to win and be this electoral juggernaut without any evidence. She has no political experience. She is not even as popular in the general public's eye as she was when Obama was president, or like 2016, for example. So I don't know how exactly that would be thing that moves the needle. Sam Madsen says, what would the map look like if 100% of eligible Americans voted? I mean, we could actually do that on the election shuffler, or the Cook political swingometer. Because if you give full turnout on every side, it would basically give Trump and Biden would be even. I mean, Pennsylvania goes to Trump, but again, Florida apparently goes to, well, they didn't adjust this very well. If you adjust the minority turnout, Trump would win with 300 electoral votes. He'd still lose Wisconsin, which I don't know if I agree with in reality, but Minnesota and Wisconsin are like both Biden by 1. But Nevada's Biden plus 0.3 and Florida's Trump plus 0.9. It doesn't fully add up is what I'm saying when they do this. I think that Trump probably would win in a full turnout election, because now he's starting to do better in the polls that are just like all adults compared to like likely voters, even though he's not doing that bad in likely voter samples. Like, that's an overblown thing. Luke Newman says, is it possible Republicans win Wisconsin and Michigan Senate race? Yeah, absolutely. It's possible. Michigan might be, Republicans are not favored. They're not favored in Wisconsin yet. I think that could change. We'll see. On Point Politics for 10 says, Donald Trump has a floor of 268 electoral votes, one of the Rust Belt states, and he's golden. Trump will more likely get 35 to 45% of the Hispanic vote, which is more than enough to get Arizona. Yeah, I think he possibly could get more than Bush in 2004. It's entirely possible. I think he'll get up there. You saw the primary. It was not good for Biden in Hispanic areas particularly. If the same people want to talk about the drop-off for Trump, we have to talk about the drop-off from Biden, which is more significant because Biden didn't have any opposition. Biden's a sitting president as well. M says, if Rubio is VP, who would replace him in the Senate? I don't know. You're going to have to talk to DeSantis about that one. Probably, it probably would be the Attorney General there. Let's see. Chris Collins for $50 Says, keep it up. I have a bad feeling Nikki Haley will be the VP. Rubio would be okay. I mean, yeah, I don't think Nikki Haley's going to be the VP, though. Trump already ruled her out. She's not going to be considered. I mean, now her family members are trash-talking Trump on Twitter, saying that at the RNC they're gonna unleash a coup. Doesn't make really any sense. Philip Garcia says thoughts on Dick Moore. I don't know who Dick Morris for VP. I don't really know much about him. Some author. Trump's not gonna choose somebody that's not a politician. I mean, we kind of already know that. President Biden says Tulsi needs to be VP or Secretary of Defense. I think Secretary of Defense is far more likely than VP. Brandon Fairbanks for 10 says, how will Biden try to gaslight Trump during the debate? Well, Biden probably is not going to be able to gaslight Trump. I think if anything, it's going to be the other way around. He'll try to say something that's just not true. That's what he'll try to do. Because all he has is lies in his corner. Democrats, they stop caring about being objective or caring about the truth. They just say lies, basically, about Trump. Trump tried to overthrow the government. Where's your evidence? People protested in the Capitol. Okay. Doesn't exactly cut it. Just everything they say is a lie. Biden will call 1-6 a deadly riot, but the only person that died or was killed was a Trump supporter who was unarmed. So how exactly would that make sense? Milky Way Gaming says, in June, will Biden attack Trump on gay rights? Well, if he does, he'll probably lose more support. So if he wants to do that, he wants to go to the woke stuff again, talk about the alphabet stuff, do it. Please. Declare 4th of July some transgender day. That'd be the best thing Trump could ask for. Bomani Igloo says, how's Brandon Herrera looking, team AR or AK? I mean, I've never shot an AK. I like the ARs better because they're, relatively lightweight. And I've actually shot one, so I can't exactly say team AK, but I also don't know what the AK is like. But in terms of Herrera, I don't think at this point, I'm not so sure I could say he's going to win because it doesn't seem like he's getting a Trump endorsement. It also doesn't seem as if, he's getting a lot of big money. And the Democrats will try to come and save Gonzalez if they possibly can, if they didn't vote in the round one. So we'll see what happens. We'll see. I want him to win. I hope he wins. I just don't know. They're definitely going to... They got all this dark money. They got all these ads are playing with things that are kind of lies or out of context. But, when you're somebody who's running for office and you've done like a lot of commentary, you've done a lot of YouTube or whatever, there's a lot of controversial things you say, a lot of jokes you tell. They'll take them out of context. They'll use it against him. That's exactly what Gonzalez is doing. The only saving grace is that Gonzalez is such a joke. His ads are awful. And that maybe there's some chance that all the people in the primary who voted against him turn out at a higher rate for some reason. I just don't know. Chris Collins says Dick Morris used to be a Clinton strategist and is now a Newsmax contributor. Well, maybe he's somebody that would be like a campaign guy, but he's definitely not a VP type of dude. I've heard of the guy, just didn't really think he would be anyone Trump would consider. And I didn't really know exactly what he did. Hitman Zarelli says Trump president, and yeah, totally. Trump is going to make Biden. Yeah, Hunter Biden will be the VP. That's the answer. Hunter Biden will be VP. I mean, that'd be a turn of events. Wouldn't happen, but it'd be a turn of events. But let's see. Yeah, Hunter Biden for VP. We could start that meme. We could make it happen. Probably not, but at least it'd be entertaining for sure. So, all right, we have been going for an hour. It's probably going to be a short stream. So, again, this will kind of be the last call for Super Chats. If you guys have Super Chats, send them in. We'll look in regular chat. We're probably not going to go for another, 20 minutes or so, maybe another 10 to 15. But just a heads up, like the stream. Make sure you guys do that. And subscribe if you have not yet subscribed. We just hit 180,000. That's huge. We got to get to 200,000 quickly. I mean, the road to 200K. If we gain as fast as we gain the last 20,000, the next 20,000, we're going to probably be there sometime in like September. And it's possible we get there sooner because there's a lot of content on the way. We got the conventions. We've got a lot of different things that are taking place. We have the conventions. You got the RNC. You got the debate. The debate is huge. I don't think I can stream the debate. Maybe I could do like the audio stream on Rumble or something. I don't know about the copyright stuff, but I could do that. We could do it on Rumble, and then we could do the after show here, which I think is going to be the most likely course of action. So Hitman Zarelli says, what do you think about Washington's 4th district? Isn't that the one that's, let's see. Oh, it's Dan Newhouse's. Yeah, I mean, Trump might actually get his candidate to the runoff, and I think it's possible that they could win. You know, Newhouse is definitely somebody who impeached Trump or voted to impeach Trump. It didn't exactly, work trying to stop him in the primary or whatever. So we'll see. I think this time around, Democrats are not really going to run a candidate, get behind Newhouse, but it's possible that they could go out there and beat him if it's a head-to-head with Trump on the ballot. Luke Newman says, has Rep ever been to Buc-ee's before? I have. A few times. Not a lot. I've never been to, what's the other one? H-E-B, or the grocery store, because they don't have a lot of them down in, or up in the Dallas area, but they're starting to build more of them. But I've been to Buc-ee's several times. Chris Collins says, how many debates verified? 2. And there should be more. There should be more than that, by the way. There should be a lot more than 2. Biden wants a debate in June, fine. Trump did say anytime, anywhere, any place. He can use it to make the case to voters, fine. But at that point, you have to, go out there and, debate again, or have the 3 regular fall debates. Like that's how it's always been. 2020, Trump had COVID, so one of them got canceled. That's a rare circumstance. They did like a sit-down town hall type of ordeal instead, back-to-back. With this, it's different. You have Donald Trump, Biden, they're both healthy. Well, maybe not in terms of Biden's mental capacity, but they're both physically healthy. COVID's not a big issue. And it's like, yeah, we know that there's no reason not to have the 3 fall debates. So Biden is backing out, essentially. He's basically agreeing to 1. He's agreeing to 1 debate. The first debate's not going to have the same political impact that a usual first debate would. And it's strategic because the incumbent president typically fails in the first debate. It's historically the way it's been. Watch Obama in 2012. Looked like he didn't want to be there. Didn't know how to attack Romney coming out and making his stances seem more palatable. Or Bush and Kerry in 2004. I mean, that was Bush's issue. The whole debate was about foreign policy, but the people said Kerry overwhelmingly won because he hit him where it hurt on certain things. Of course, he was a flip-flopper and he didn't win the next 2 debates, but he did get a boost from the first debate. Romney did. He just couldn't capitalize on it. He didn't win the last 2 debates. It wasn't like he got blown out, but Obama he came back, and kind of just the contrast there gave him a boost in that regard. So the second debate being before early voting starts, who knows? But Trump, at this point, you could say have an advantage in the first debate. And if that goes poorly, will Biden even debate a second time? I mean, maybe, but we'll see. Trump is just good staying on message. He is staying on message. Not giving him anything to be upset about. Joshua Mills says Adam Laxalt for VP. It won't happen. He's a statewide official for 4 years. That's his entire experience, and he's not uniquely strong or charismatic, and he lost 2 statewide offices. I don't think you could put somebody who lost 2 offices, or at least offices they went for. Obviously, the second one was federal, but he lost 2 consecutive elections 4 years apart. I don't know if Laxalt would help Trump even in Nevada. Hitman Zarelli says Red Eagle for VP. I'm not old enough. If I was, would I accept it? I don't know. Possibly. Johnny Heartdog says 268's overly optimistic. I say 257. Well, I think you can make the case for either. Bomani Igloo says, anyone watch Usyk and Fury? I think that's some fight or something. I did not see it, but the chat can talk about it. But, yeah, Donald Trump, Joe Biden. Trump's the favorite. Like, anybody saying Biden is the favorite is just lying. If you feel like there's some bad hunch you have, or you think that people aren't going to turn out, fine. Or if the early vote data speaks volumes the other way, then maybe you could say it changes. But right here, right now, Donald Trump is the favorite. It's not even close. Not even close. And then things can change. Maybe you think Biden somehow finds a way, but based on the current metrics, if nothing changes between now and Election Day, Trump is going to win. End of discussion. Boris Davitsky says, could you please stream Kentucky and Oregon on Tuesday? I absolutely will stream Kentucky and Oregon on Tuesday. I thought Idaho was also on Tuesday. Maybe it's not. If you look at Kentucky, Oregon, I think, at least there's going to be something for Idaho. Maybe it's going to be down ballot stuff, but who knows? But I will be streaming. Absolutely, we'll stream. No questions about it. But yeah, VP, we'll see who Trump picks. I'm voting regardless for Trump. I encourage everybody else to vote regardless for Trump, regardless of whatever VP pick he selects. We have to unite the ticket, unite the party. We got to play to win. The VP is not that relevant as much as some people think. It'll be fun seeing whoever it is go out there and destroy Kamala Harris. I hope it's somebody that's capable of destroying Kamala Harris. Joe said he was a VP during the pandemic. Is that true? It wouldn't surprise me if he did, but that's crazy. Base Cats is predicted flip back to Trump. Honestly, I don't care. Betting odds are garbage. I mean, Polymarket's probably more in-depth at this point than predicted, and Trump's up by 10, which was not the case. He was losing a couple weeks ago. But he's still down in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, but he's barely down in all three. So even though the map gives Biden the victory, it gives Donald Trump enough chances based off of the chances in each state. It gives him enough percent for him to get the leg up. So they think he's going to win one of the three, even if they think right now he's not favored. It's confusing. In terms of Senate control, Montana and Ohio are Republican. In terms of the other states, it's not like Republicans are even within striking distance of any state except Nevada, which, again, they very well could win in the Senate election. But you would think that, for some reason, Maryland, they have Larry Hogan at 20. There's no way Hogan wins. I'm willing to bet everything I have Hogan does not win. Everything. I think Republicans would be probably more likely to win Virginia in that Senate race than win Maryland's. Even New Mexico, who knows what's going to happen there. But I just don't see it. I just can't see it myself. But you're looking at the presidency, and Trump is at 52. I mean, it's not bad. But if the betting odds showed Biden as a heavy favorite, it wouldn't really mean much. It would just mean that betting markets are being manipulated by people who are not very intelligent or want to meme Biden into being the favorite so they could possibly come back and make more money at the end of the day. Who knows? Garrett Varanakar says, what will the Senate margins look like in New Jersey, Maryland, and Virginia if Dems don't spend there and blow millions in safe red states like Florida? Well, they're going to do that anyways. I don't think it's going to impact the Senate margins. New Jersey probably is going to be like 10 to 15. Maryland is going to be like 15 to 20. Virginia is probably going to be like, I don't know, somewhere around 5, I would say. Who knows? Who knows? All I know is that Trump is in a good position. That doesn't mean it's anywhere near a guarantee that he's going to win or that it's over already, but he's in a good position. He's never been the favorite this far out. Never. Whether we thought he would win in 2020 is completely irrelevant. He's never been like the actual favorite based off of every single metric before. And now he is, which is definitely something we've never seen before. Now, I don't know. There's no Nebraska second odds here. There should be. I think there is. This is just a hard site to really navigate. But, yeah. Let's see what people are saying in chat. Yeah, Trump never has polled this well before. Yeah, and honestly, there is this PTSD type of thing. Oh, it could be too good to be true. But again, the polls in the midterms didn't really start to underestimate Democrats until people started voting, which kind of implies that the polls this far out, a lot of them are not Republican like internals or anything like that. You could say that they're pretty accurate. Now, if there's a late Trump surge in October, I tell people to be skeptical. BRGRS is, I think, being complacent. In Montana, Tester always seems to find a way to win, and Tim Sheehy isn't well liked in Montana, and there's going to be a libertarian on the ballot. Well, they're always on the ballot. I don't think it's complacency to say the Tester's not going to outrun Joe Biden by 20 points on net, because that's what he would have to do to win. I think it'll be close-ish, but is it lean Republican? Yes. Is it likely Republican? You could even maybe make the case. It's not a state that with Trump on the ballot, with increasing polarization, a Senate race with a senator who's not a moderate by any stretch of the terms, even though he pretends to be one, yeah, I think this is the year Tester goes down. This is not 2012. It's not 2018 either. So, we'll have to see what happens, but still, I don't think that the Tester's really in a good shape to win. So, nevertheless, let's see what people are saying here. What do I think of Trump's speech in Minnesota? I think it was a good speech. I thought it was funny. He had a lot of funny moments. I didn't see it in full, but he had a lot of funny moments to it. But he was on fire in New Jersey. Texas, he did a good job in the NRA thing. I saw clips of that too. They're talking about a clip where he didn't talk when there was music playing, and they're saying, he's freezing up. It's what they're saying. It's like, no, there's music playing. Why would he be? He's not like mentally having a mental freeze. He's standing there and waited for the dramatic part of the music to come in before he said what he was going to say. He's got a teleprompter in front of him. So he gave a good speech in Minnesota, gave a good speech in Dallas. He gave a good speech last week. He's doing well. He's doing pretty well. He's striking the balance well between 2016 and like more presidential. So I like what I'm seeing, regardless of the nonsensical gaslighting coming from the Biden campaign. So people in chat are saying Trump 2024 indeed. Opinion for Nancy. Yeah, now I don't think Trump's going to pick Nancy Mace to be his VP. That would possibly be an issue if he did, because she's not really all that well liked among the core base. Now, she probably gets the core base now because her opponent's even worse in the primary. She should have been kicked out in 2022. Shout out to Duke Pitts for the $1. Thank you. Let's see. I think we're going to wrap it up. That's going to be the last super chat of the night. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you guys like the stream before you go. Subscribe, hit the bell. We have a super chat. The last super chat, we have one that just slipped through. Christian News Junkie says, do you have an opinion on what percentage of Dem politicians are true workers versus political chameleons and grifters? I have no idea. When you talk about neo-Marxism, Marxism can mean a lot of different things. You're talking about from an economic perspective or from like a social perspective. Because I think from a social perspective, they're there. But there's a lot of political chameleons and grifters, but they all fall in line. They're all identical. They're all neoliberals. But they have like that socially Marxist edge to them as well. So keep that in mind. You have few exceptions, but they always fall in line, so it's not like it actually matters. But anyways, guys, like the stream before you go. Subscribe, hit the bell. You can follow me on social media. The links are in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.